They come out at night and
when the sun is down.
Trell.
General is right here and has his grandparents.
Angels with their torches turned upside down, sign of death. He was governor during the Civil War. That whole thing was toppled during the tornado that came through about 3 years ago in March. It's all been restored. They have a full-time person. All they do is restore monuments that have been damaged by weather.
Is that the monument that's in the distance? The tall
Right.
one?
It's way up in the trees.
Yeah, okay, good.
Elizabeth had her own, his wife, done Rococo style. And there's a statue of he and his wife at the state capitol in the corner there, Elizabeth and Joseph Brown. He was a dentist. They only had one child, Wiley, who died in 1865. He only lived to be 5 years old. After her husband died in 1896, their house was at West Peachtree and 5th Street, where the Biltmore Hotel is now. They were known for their flower gardens. After he died, she delivered flowers to people in sanatoriums and hospitals and became known as the Angel of Mercy. She left a very large estate, and her nieces and nephews had this dedicated to her. The original was designed by Daniel Chester French, and the original is in Woodlawn Cemetery in the Bronx in New York. To me, very gorgeous monument.
Yes, it is. It's wonderful.
Daughters aged about 2, 4, 6, and 8 all died within 10 days of each other.
What happened?
In 1863 of diphtheria. So, what Margaret Mitchell is known for.
Oh, yeah. 75th anniversary, you know, Gone with the Wind.
Yeah, so the publication of the book. I'm sure we'll have a lot of different anniversaries having to do with the anniversary for the movie.
You of course know that book was almost not published, you know. The publisher, he had the manuscript. Margaret Mitchell said, "Bring it back, I want it back." He was on the train headed to New York, so he ignored her request.
Right. Well, she was kind of uncertain about it. She really just was writing down things, or started it as part of when she had a ankle injury and couldn't go out, and I guess it was just here and there. It wasn't all put together, but I mean the story, I guess I don't know what thing was, but I mean she eventually was convinced to publish it, and then worked another 6 months or so putting the final details together. And
she wrote the first chapter first, well, the last chapter first, and the first chapter second, or something like that. Before she wrote the whole book, she wrote the first and
we're awake.
Chapter and the last chapter.
I hope you're going to pass your test. Well, anyhow, you know, she got hit by a taxi cab walking across the street in the evening with her husband. They had been on for a while. He had had some heart problems, so I don't think either of them were working much other than probably living off royalties from the book and movie. This is June at Washington, D.C. The airport is co-named after him now, the Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. He was our first black mayor. He served back in the 70s and 80s, or early 90s. His house is next to the Clyde King house. It's really a church now, but behind it is a Atlanta environs, and did a lot of research on families, particularly for the first 100 years of Atlanta's history. You'll see a lot of his research out at the History Center or the State Archives, Franklin Garrett's Necrology and Franklin Garrett's Atlanta Environs books he wrote. So this lot where he and his wife was given to him by the city. Doctor or a medical student, he looked like he wasn't going to make it, and he asked the doctor to cut his jugular vein when he was declared dead because of fear of being buried alive. So
It's the first burial in Atlanta,
The land
1850.
here was purchased in June of 1850, and that was the very first burial. They purchased this from Alfred Wooding, a farmer, and his wife had just died in May, so his wife is buried here earlier, but it wasn't part of the cemetery at the time. I had to look that up. She never lived in Atlanta. The family estate was in Athens. She lived the last 8 years of her life in Decatur, but this was given to her by the city. But since they don't mention Compton, I guess I'm going to have to look up and see if he's there or someplace else, or they were divorced or something. So then their grandson, Socrates Billings Ivy, called Sock Ivy, was the first white male born in Atlanta to an Atlanta family in the 1840s. Born in Walton County on December 29th, 1833. He came here in the 1870s after his wife died. He had 6 young children. He really started a brick factory up at 14th Street and Peachtree. He said a lot of the houses that were burnt during the Civil War, if you made them out of brick, it wouldn't be as easy to burn them down. He had a fear of choking, so he never wore a tie. He had a portrait done of him, and the painter put a tie on him, so he wouldn't pay for him until he took the tie off. 4 of his sons are buried, entombed in the mausoleum, possibly their wives. His is one of the few mausoleums that the caskets are just sitting on shelves inside the mausoleum. They're not covered.
Oh, really?
There's some little grandchildren here at the end, buried at the end, that little blip out the back. But the story, according to the sexton, is his casket has a glass window over where his face would be in his casket. But did jobs for the soldiers, the Yankee soldiers who were stationed here. And her book is at the original is at the Atlanta History Center, and it's used as a reference for what went on. Shoes, repaired shoes. One of his sons was a lawyer. There's 6 little graves in front of the art. He was one of 15 children of Elizabeth and Meredith Collier. Collier Road up near Piedmont Hospital is named after that family. So he went on. His father wasn't as much into education, but mother pursued, let her children decide what they wanted. Life not revealed. She died at age 22 of complications from having rheumatic fever. Mother was rather devastated.
Yeah, sure does.
But that's 6 feet under. And that's where, with your ticket from today, you get a discount. The area was reformatted after emancipation in 1868, and then all the slave graves were moved to the black section of the cemetery. And so
This is where Bobby Jones is buried.
he had promised his wife that he would retire from the regular circuit after, even though he wasn't a professional. He did design golf courses. He designed the Augusta National Golf Course. So a lot of people, particularly around the time of the Masters, come and they leave